day, everyone. I'm Fred Katayama, Executive Vice President of the U.S.-Japan Council. Welcome to our podcast series, Japanese Leadership, Innovative Technology, with Reuters Plus. I'll be delving into how Japanese technology is being used to solve pressing problems in the island nation. Today's episode is on Japan's world-leading disaster response technology that makes the country resilient. Seated on the ring of fire, Japan is vulnerable to natural disasters such as earthquakes, tsunami, volcanic eruptions, typhoons, and heavy rain. But Japan is about as prepared as a Boy Scout. We're about to uncover some of the secrets behind Japan's state of readiness. Disaster proofing has a long history in Japan, and the World Bank noted in 2018 that Japan's architecture was, in its words, among the safest and most disaster resilient in the world. High praise indeed. Joining us is a true expert in this field, Keio University professor Rajiv Shah. Rajiv is editor-in-chief of Elsevier's journal Progress in Disaster Science. He'll tell us what Japan has learned, and he'll reveal new technologies used to boost safety. Well, welcome, Rajiv.
Thank you very much, Fred.
Great to have you with us. Let's do a deep dive. Let's get started. Now the term natural disaster, it's no longer being used in disaster management circles. That's not something I was aware of, and I'm sure many people watching aren't aware of. Can you tell me what the proper term is now and why the change?
There is a thin line between the words called hazard and disasters. Hazards are the natural event, say for example, earthquake, typhoon, flooding, tsunami, volcanic eruption. These are called natural hazard. But when it turns into disaster, then it has to have some impact on human being or its built environment. And that's implication or impact of the natural event on the human-built environment is called disaster. So nowadays we don't use the term natural disasters, rather natural hazard or the impact is a disaster.
It's that human element then that now separates it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Rajiv, you work in disaster management and disaster science, so lay it out for us. What are the main countermeasures that Japan deploys against disasters?
Japan has a long history of disasters. Japan has been experiencing disasters, and every time the fascinating part of Japan is that it is learning each and every lessons from the disasters. So what we see the current disaster management or disaster response or disaster risk reduction perspective in Japan, it's built on the whole history of experiential learning. Say, for example, 2023, last year, that was the 100 years from the major earthquake. 1923 was the Great Kanto earthquake. That actually laid down the whole building technologies, infrastructure technologies, what we see in Japan. In between, there were many other natural events from which, whether it is typhoon, tsunami, earthquakes, so we learn lessons from those.
The Great East Japan Earthquake. Now that was a game changer, ranked as one of the strongest earthquakes worldwide. It killed over 15,000 people, and it triggered the meltdown of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Now, Japan already had a very resilient infrastructure in place. So, Rajiv, what lessons can we take away from Fukushima?
It is indeed a very, very complex disasters, as you mentioned. So there were three specific events. First, an earthquake, which induced the tsunami. And then the tsunami induced the nuclear meltdown. So one of the key lessons, what we are learning here, that the whole risk landscape, not only in Japan but globally, is becoming more complex. Earlier, our response mechanism were more hazard specific: earthquake, volcano, tsunami. So these were all separate. But what we have learned is that it's not just only one single event we need to think about. We need to think about what we call the complex emergency. 2 or 3 different events are happening at the same time, and that needs not only the technological skill, but a very strong management decision making. At what time to shut down the technological or the plants or many other, say for example, when the bullet train or the Shinkansen. So there are many different complex issues which are coming up. And that's what we call the complex emergency. And that's one of the key lessons what we have taken from this Fukushima incident.
Rural areas, such as northern Japan, Tohoku, what kind of disaster technology is Japan working on? We talked about human networks, but what about technology?
There are many different types of technologies which have been used. Say, for example, the use of drones in the coastal area, especially to understand the coastal hazard, has been a very, very common thing. Now, who are the user of these technologies? Like, who actually uses this particular technology to make certain amount of decision making are the local governments. So one of the key aspect of using different types of emerging technologies like drones, then data science, then augmented reality, or what we call the virtual reality, we call the XR. So these type of technologies are often used to make different types of simulation. Earlier days, we used to make an hazard map and make the simulation. But now with the augmented reality or XR technology, you can actually see that what will be the height of the tsunami wave, how much percentage of your houses will be get destroyed. So I see a combination of emerging technology as well as the conventional technology, which are the hazard mapping. That combination is very, very important.
I see. So Japan has the data, it also has the devices, the climate network, TOS and AI, and you've got a lot of possibility there. Resilience, it's key to disaster planning. How does Japan safeguard vital services such as water and power in the event of an emergency?
Resilience, the way I define resilience is it's like a bamboo. Like when there is a very strong wind, the bamboo bends. But when the wind is over, it again comes back to the original position. So Japan's society is like bamboo. When there is a pressure, it bounces back very quickly. And that's the concept of the resilience. When there is a disaster, how we can run our hospital, our electricity, our water system, and communication system, and the road network. So these possibly are the very important critical infrastructure: electricity, water, road network, and communication system. So Japan pays a very strong emphasis on building resilience in this system. Now, the local government's decision making becomes extremely, extremely important. When you give an early warning system, we also need to ensure that when people evacuate in the schools or in some temporary shelter, there is provision of electricity, water supply, and communication network. So this emergency communication, even if the normal smartphones or the normal telecommunication system fails, but still this emergency communication works between the emergency center and the local government, and that becomes very, very important. So resilience is a combination of this type of physical infrastructure, governance, decision making, But to me, I think the most fascinating part of Japan is its people's resilience, the community's resilience. And that possibly very much linked to people's awareness, their preparedness, individual preparedness, and collective or the community preparedness.
Resilience. All right. Well, let's look at public-private partnerships, Rajiv. They often play a key role in disaster response. How do they factor into Japan's disaster response strategy?
Some private sector are focusing very strongly on earthquake engineering technology, like how to make all the different types of infrastructure very strong for earthquake engineering. Some of the private sectors have very strong technologies on flood-related issues or the early warning system. Some of the private sector have very strong areas on the energy innovation. Say, for example, this bullet train, which runs at the speed of around close to 300 kilometers per hour. In case of an earthquake, how you can stop that particular train. And that is a very, very strong sensor technology which is there. So before the main wave comes.
And Professor, if you just explain for us, how does that technology work behind the bullet train in terms of sensing that P wave and stopping to the point where they've never had any major incidents?
So whenever there are some ground movement, you get that particular initial sensing very quickly, and that we call the P wave. So even before the secondary wave, which has an time lag, sometimes 15 seconds, sometimes 30 seconds, so you detect the ground movement and instantly through the automated system, you reduce the speed of the bullet train or you make it stopped gradually. And this type of sensing technologies are used not only for the bullet train, but also in the high-rise building. Say, for example, you have the elevators. So how you can stop quickly the elevators by sensing that primary wave. And this is possibly one of the fascinating technology Japan has for the early detection of this ground movement.
Well, Rajiv, the big question, can other countries implement measures from Japan's disaster management playbook?
Yes, Japan has been actually promoting different types of disaster-related technologies through its overseas development assistance called ODA. The early warning systems, Japan's early warning system has been very, very impactful in different countries. I give you an example. In Myanmar, 2008, there was a major cyclone called Cyclone Nargis. In Myanmar, in the Bay of Bengal, the typhoon is called cyclone. So there was a major cyclone in Myanmar, and the casualty was 120,000 people. 120,000 people actually lost their lives. There was a major issue of the early detection and monitoring of the cyclone. So Japan worked with the Myanmar Meteorological Agency and tried to enhance its capacities to develop this early warning system. And as a result, in 2019, when there was a major cyclone again in the Bay of Bengal area, so the casualty came down to around maybe 150 or 160 people. So with certain technological intervention, where I am talking about 120,000 people, with a proper early warning system, you can really bring down this whole casualty, and early warning technology or early warning system plays a very important role.
Rajiv, fascinating discussion. I'm going to remember what you said. Japanese society is like a bamboo. It's data, devices, people working with each other, resilience. Learned a lot. Thank you for sharing your insights.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, technology is at the forefront of disaster resilience, and it's reassuring to hear that Japan's expertise can be replicated worldwide. Japan is the world leader in longevity. It has the world's oldest population. More than 1 in 10 in Japan are now 80 or older. And national data show over 29% of the population of 125 million is aged 65 or above. Added low birth rates, and all this puts added pressure on government spending and healthcare resources. Japan's pension system is coming under increased strain as the number of workers contributing to the system dwindles. People in many other industrialized nations, they're also getting older, and it's accelerating. Let's find out what Japan has been exploring to tackle this problem. Joining us now to discuss the technological solutions for an aging population is University of Tokyo professor Hiroko Akiyama. She's a gerontologist who has conducted a number of cross-national surveys on global aging. Welcome, Hiroko. Glad to have you with us.
It is my pleasure.
Let's start. Hiroko, aging populations are a global issue. What are the biggest threats that they represent?
We are currently going through a period of major transition as we seek new ways of living and organizing society in the era of 100 years life. And individual aging and population aging pose formidable challenges. At the same time, offer us boundless new opportunities. It takes technological and social innovations. I think population aging is a gold mine of innovation. And 7 years ago, we launched Kamakura Living Lab, user-centered platform for open innovations. Kamakura is name of a city. And we work closely with Age Tech Consortium, in which more than 200 companies participate. My academic background is social psychology, so I have always approached issues in aging society from a place of ordinary citizens. Although there are many institutional design issues like we need to redesign social systems and also financial issues, focusing on technological solutions, I would raise the following 5 problems. Okay? The first decrease in working age population, as just Fred mentioned, the shortage of workers. And the second, as the baby boomers reach age 75, they become concerned about maintaining autonomy and independent life. And the third, increase in single household, particularly 3/4 of women aged 75 and older will live alone by 2030. And social isolation, loneliness become a more prevalent problem. And the fourth is certainly a greater demand for healthcare and long-term care. And finally, the fifth, increased prevalence of dementia due to the increase of people aged 75 or 80 years old or older.
Hiroko, you mentioned the decrease in working age people. Do we need to rethink the concept of retirement from a hard stop to a phase plan?
So, aging population is a common problem across developed countries. And among the 5 issues I just raised, the first one, decrease in working the age population is already a hot issue among developed the countries. And Japan already faces a labor shortage, and we have to utilize available human resource fully. And we need to come up with measures to get young and old, men and women, and those with disabilities all work without strain. And today's seniors are healthier and better educated comparing with their parents' generation. And they are capable and willing to work. And converging scientific evidence indicates working after age 65 is generally good for physical and mental health as well.
So instead of worrying about working at an older age, especially in terms of physical challenges, you're saying that it's better for your health to work after 65.
That's right. It's generally, I think, there is, of course, the data that certain people, with a certain segment of the population, I think for some people, I think, there's the evidence shows some negative impacts of working after retirement age.
So, for those in the lower social strata, for example, those of lower income or less educated, are there, in their case, technological solutions that would allow them to work?
So yeah, that's right. I mean, already technology has turned impossible to possible. As most of the heavy farming and construction work are mechanized, so seniors and not only seniors and women are capable to work in those fields. And flexible work styles such as remote work using ICT, broadened options for senior workers. Now we are working on a software to create a super ability worker by matching up, for example, 3 persons with different skills. So 3 persons work at one job as a part-time workers. Okay? And we call it a mosaic worker. Okay, and so this is a software for a smartphone. So we are trying to create a the environment. Everyone can work without strain.
You say mosaic, I guess 3 heads are better than 1, huh?
Right.
Well, Hinoko, as the baby boomer generation ages, how can they maintain autonomy and an independent lifestyle?
This is a really kind of big issue. So it's industry working. I think it's quite hard. See, I think the mobility is very important. We tested the new model of the personal mobility from the Nissan and the Toyota's real community. I think tested out, and they made comments for improvement. Mobility issues. It's quite important. Yeah.
Well, Hinoko, you noted this earlier, but the number of single households for those over the age of 75 have increased, and that means more cases of people who suffer from loneliness and social isolation. How can technology keep these people connected?
That's particularly this is the issue for women. Okay, and as I mentioned, 3/4 of the women are age 75 and older will be living alone by 2030. And so, in order to maintain social ties, okay, ICT provides workable solutions. And also, they, including actually myself, are also thinking about living with a smart and friendly social robot as a pal. Okay, and actually, several companies are trying to develop, the social robot as a pal.
So, Hiroko, you have a robot that you're living with?
Now it's under still development. I don't have it. I'm looking forward to living with a social robot. Now I have a husband, okay, and it's not a bad idea to live with social robots as a pal. I think so we can talk.
Well, you don't need it for now as long as you've got your husband. But
Yes.
longevity, it puts pressure on demand for healthcare services, and the management of chronic conditions like diabetes keeps growing. So what kind of technologies has Japan developed to help manage those conditions or even prevent them in the first place?
Yeah, advances in technology in the field of medical diagnosis and treatment and prevention and also breakthrough drugs are amazing.
But one big issue is dementia, and you mentioned this earlier, but it's on the rise in most developed countries. So what can we expect in the development of preventative treatments?
Well, I think the drugs is certainly, but I think we have to redesign the community.
Redesign in what way? To allow them to be active within the community as opposed to staying at home?
Yes, day service, daycare services, we call it working day services. So people with dementia are working. Because I think now, all of us, live kind of assuming we get dementia sometime. I would like to live as just full member of the community.
Going on to aging populations, it's a global concern, and business, government, civil society, they need to work together to manage a solution. As Japan is a leader in technology solutions, could this arena become a new lucrative revenue source for Japanese industry? Opportunity, that is.
As Japan is a front runner of aging societies, we have a head start on solving various issues associated with individual and population aging. And there are no models ahead of us. So as aging population is a global phenomenon, other countries will face similar problems sooner or later. So if we can come up with right solutions, we'll have promising worldwide market.
Okay, well, one day I hope to ask you about how you're dealing with your social robots, but I guess there's time ahead before you have to deal with them. Thank you, Professor Hiroko Akiyama, for this fascinating conversation.
It is my pleasure.
Well, it's great to see how Japanese technology and policy allow people to live with dignity and respect as they move into their golden years. And these solutions create business opportunities, as Hiroko said, for the younger generations. I'm Fred Katayama, and this is Japanese Technology. Thanks for listening, and please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.